Big Jim might have been introduced to fans as a sweet and candy-obsessed character, but the truth is, this cat's backstory is actually pretty dark.
Hey, Petey! Shut it, Big Jim!
Do you know the tragic past of Petey's cellmate and what's coming next for him in the Dogman comics?
Hey! So long, sucker!
Big Jim is easily one of the friendliest characters in the whole Dogman universe, but there's always been a huge mystery that sparks fans' imaginations. What exactly did he do to get locked up if our Captain Cupcake has always been such a good guy? Before we answer that question, it's super important to explain that Big Jim's tough life started back in his childhood, on the very day a prophecy was accidentally made about him. One night, a spaceship landed near Big Jim's home, and his parents found a letter left by aliens. The message said that the child living there had a great destiny. He had been chosen to help others, and with the help of a magical object known as the Ring of Destiny, this hero would do amazing things and save the universe. The ring was supposed to be with the letter, but his parents never found it. This story is told in the comic Big Jim: The Beginning, and we later learn that just minutes before Little Jim's parents discovered the prophecy, another character had passed by the area. Crud, who's actually Petey's dad, ran into the alien and lied, saying he knew the chosen child and would deliver the ring to him. But instead, he gave the magical object to his fiancée, Grace, Petey's mom. From that moment on, Big Jim's life took a hard turn. And if you want to hear the whole story, you'd better grab your popcorn, because you're about to watch another very special Cinewave episode. Our sweet Captain Cupcake went through a lot as a kid, and maybe that's why he's always bursting with positive energy, so he doesn't get dragged down by all the pain he's been through. As a child, Petey's cellmate was known as Little Jim. He had a mom and a dad whose names we never learn. But from what fans know, the family lived peacefully in OK City. Everything changed the day of a horrible accident. While the family was out for a drive, for some unknown reason, Little Jim's father lost control of the car. They crashed, and both of the Purple Kitten's parents were killed. It was the worst moment of Big Jim's life, and probably the beginning of a long stretch of suffering. He lost not only his parents, but also the home they lived in, since there were no other relatives to care for him. Big Jim's parents were loving and kind, and it was from them that our purple cat learned how to be good even during hard times. When you look at Big Jim in his superhero outfit, some people think he's wearing a mask around his eyes, but that's not it. That mask is actually his mom's glasses, and now you can see how much his parents still mean to our hero. When he was just a kitten, he was playing with his friends, and in that story, he ended up in the baby jail cell. At the end of playtime, his mom gave him her glasses and explained that the best way to do the right thing is to figure out how to turn something bad into something good. That's exactly how Big Jim thinks throughout his entire story in the cat jail. Maybe you didn't know this, but in the Dogman world, cats face a lot of discrimination, and Big Jim's presence in that prison is definitely a comfort to the others. Would you want Big Jim as your roommate? Drop a hashtag Jim in the comments so we can get to know each other. After the tragic accident, Big Jim woke up in the hospital, and that's where he found out that his parents were gone. That kind of news is nearly impossible to cope with. While he was healing from his injuries, our little kitty got some help from another baby, Nurse Lady, the same one who came up with the idea of creating Dogman by using Greg the dog's head. Back then, she was just a little kid herself, and she played with Purple Jim during his recovery. But soon after that, he was sent to live in an orphanage called the Happy Home Shelter, located in Bedford Falls near OK City. The shelter was already overcrowded, but luckily it was run by a kind-hearted woman named Miss Pierce. Even with very little money, she did everything she could to care for the children. Even though Big Jim was just a child in desperate need of help, he ended up living in Miss Pierce's office because all the beds were taken. But he never just sat around waiting for someone to help him. Little Jim always pitched in with chores around the shelter, like washing dishes or mopping the floors, because he knew how much Miss Pierce needed support. And that brings us back to his mom's life lesson about what to do in tough times. Our purple kitten knew he had lost his family, but that didn't mean he was going to give up on happiness or stop being the sweet cat he's always been. But that same question still lingers, doesn't it? What did Big Jim do to end up behind bars if he's such a good guy? Maybe it all started with Petey. When Big Jim was just a kid, he had no way of knowing that his life would be impacted by Grandpa Crud's actions so many times. Back when he was living at the orphanage, Petey's dad had abandoned the family, and since he was the one bringing in the money, his wife Grace and their flat-tailed orange kitten were kicked out of their home. With nowhere else to go, Grace brought little Petey to live at the same shelter where Little Jim was staying after his parents' accident, and that's when the two first met. Grace, who's Crud's ex-wife, started working alongside Miss Pierce to help care for the orphans, while Petey, who was already a sad little kitten because of everything that had happened to his family, stayed close to his new best friend. When Grace realized that Little Jim was a kitten with no family, she did what any amazing mom would do. She adopted the purple kitten, even though she didn't really have the means to raise him. They continued living at the shelter, but from that moment on, Big Jim finally had someone he could call Mom. And that's exactly why he never left Petey's side, because the Purple Cat truly sees his cellmate as a brother at heart, even though Petey can be pretty rude sometimes. You know what would be even ruder? Not being one of our friends. So make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. We all know Big Jim is a sweet little kitty who believes in the power of love and friendship. That's a key part of his story, because Dogman creator Dave Pilkey is clearly trying to teach the same lesson that Big Jim's mom taught him: how to turn something bad into something good. But this also opens up a big theory. What if Big Jim isn't as innocent as he seems? Not that he's evil, that would be impossible, and we'll explain why in just a second. But what if he's actually a genius who wants to stay in jail? In the Dogman universe, it's a well-known fact that cats face a ton of discrimination, so much that there's even a prison just for them. Yep, the same one that's run by the evil mayor's brother. Big Jim really doesn't seem like the kind of character who would ever get locked up, unless he was the victim of some major injustice. There's a big chance our Purple Cat is completely innocent of whatever the police claim he did. But our hero is used to living in sad places where he's needed, like the orphanage. And maybe that's Big Jim's true mission. Maybe he committed a small crime just to get into prison, not because he's bad, but because he knew the cats inside needed someone to be a light at the end of the tunnel. When Petey became a villain and kept getting arrested, Big Jim might have realized that his brother at heart needed help. And maybe that's why he did something wrong just to be there with him. And maybe we actually do know what he did. When Big Jim became cellmates with Crud, he told a made-up story about being locked up in baby jail. Supposedly, he was searching for a magic ring, the same one Crud had stolen from the alien, when some lady thought he stole a cookie, and he ended up getting arrested for it. But in the Dogman world, baby jail isn't a real thing, because locking up babies would be totally messed up. That's why we know Big Jim was lying. Still, there's something real in that story. He used bits of his actual life to explain his past to Crud, so chances are the real crime he committed was stealing from a candy store. And honestly, that might be totally true. Big Jim is obsessed with sweets, but he didn't do it out of malice. He did it because he loves Petey and wanted to help his brother through a tough time. And once Big Jim got to prison, he realized there were a lot of other cats who needed help too. In fact, in one of the Dogman books, Petey notices that the mayor granted pardons to tons of prisoners, but not a single one of them was a cat. That moment happened in the book For Whom the Ball Rolls, and in Lord of the Fleas, the cats stage big protests for better lives. Yeah, we know there are some truly bad cats in that universe, but maybe that's just because the city treats them so badly. Want to know a secret about Big Jim? He actually knows exactly how to break out of prison, but he doesn't do it on purpose. Have you ever wondered how Big Jim manages to help Dogman and Little Petey protect the city even though he's behind bars? It's simple. Big Jim has a secret tunnel he uses every night to sneak out of jail. But since he's such a kind-hearted guy, he always comes back before sunrise to keep serving his sentence. That's already pretty strange, right? I mean, he's been locked up for so long that he probably should have earned his freedom by now, especially since Petey himself is already out. But while Big Jim hasn't been officially released yet, he's taken on a not-so-secret identity: Captain Cupcake, a hero who believes that all the world's evil can be fixed with sweets. And what could be more wholesome than a colorful, cream-filled cupcake? Probably Big Jim himself. Remember when we told you there's a reason why the Purple Cat just can't be evil? Well, now we're gonna explain why it's literally impossible for Big Jim to have any bad feelings in his heart. When he became cellmates with Petey's dad, the villain built a machine called the Brain Booster, and this device had the power to turn anyone into a giant, super strong version of themselves, but deep down, it didn't change who they really were. The Brain Booster just amplified whatever emotions were already inside the person, good or bad. So when Petey's dad tested it on Big Jim, the Purple Cat turned into a huge, muscular giant who loved giving hugs and cuddles. Yep, he was still just a sweet, gentle kitty. And if you're as much of a friend as Big Jim is, don't go anywhere, because our adventure continues. We've picked 2 more awesome videos for everyone to enjoy. We'll see you in the next one. Until then,